What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout spot where you already know it's Real Talk Sports Talk, live from my man cave. It's your boy Johnny, and let's talk some football. But before that, if you're into the NBA tonight, in-season tournament, KD and the Suns against LeBron and the Lakers. Personally, I thought it was only fitting for me to pull out my KD Brooklyn Nets throwback, only because it doesn't matter what team he plays on. I rocks with KD all day, every day. But anyhow, week 13, good week of football. And I thought I'd change it up this week and kind of just go around the horn, around the league, and just talk about highlights and certain things that stood out for me. Starting with yesterday's game, Monday night game between the Bengals and the Jaguars. A game where the Bengals, with a backup quarterback, beat the Jaguars 34-31 with Jake Browning. Let me repeat that. Jake Browning, a quarterback that personally I didn't even know who he was 3 weeks ago. There's probably a lot of fans that didn't know who he was 3 weeks ago, but we sure know who he is now. The Bengals prove that you can win with a backup quarterback. If you believe in him, you call the right plays, and you make sure that he goes out there and plays with confidence and just follows the game plan. It's possible. Not shocking in this situation because Zach Taylor is an offensive-minded head coach. He came from Sean McVay's coaching tree in the Rams. What a performance by this kid yesterday. And I totally didn't see that coming. 354 yards, 32 of 37. He misfired on only 5 passes. A touchdown? I got to applaud the Bengals because when Joe Burrow went down, I thought they were dead. I thought they were done. Now they're 6-6. Competing for a wild card spot in an AFC where the last 3 spots, maybe even the last four spots, are wide open, up for grabs. Jets, take notes. It's possible if you get a backup that has a heartbeat. They ran the ball well, too. I mean, Joe Mixon had 2 touchdowns. And a recipe for success, besides running the ball, is making sure that you get the ball into your best playmaker's hands. Jamar Chase, 11 catches, a touchdown, 149 yards. That's how it's done, ladies and gentlemen. Kudos to the Bengals for this performance. And if you're a Jaguar fan, I think you take the loss because you just got the best news that you could possibly get this morning with Trevor Lawrence. Because I got to be honest with you, I'm pretty sure all of them were just holding their breath, just like I was, because I hate to see some of the best players in the league go out with injury. I think it's bad for the league. I want to see all the best players play, just like anybody else. Trevor Lawrence, late in the fourth quarter, goes down, leg injury, tries to get back up, falls back down because he can't put any pressure on his leg. You got to think at that point it was bad because he tossed his helmet and he punched the ground. And usually that's a sign that a player knows, I'm done. I either blew out a knee, tore an ACL, popped an Achilles, something. That's what I thought happened with his reaction. But sigh of relief if you're a Jaguar fan because this morning he was diagnosed with a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out for a few games, possibly the rest of the season, but that's okay because that means he'll be back for the playoffs. And you have 8 wins, which means with just competent quarterback play, you'll win 3 more games, finish with 11 wins, you'll be fine. You'll get into the playoffs, and then he'll be ready to rock and roll. So if it was going to happen, and unfortunately in this league, injuries are going to happen, trust me, I know, they can either happen at this point in the season or they can happen 4 plays into the season. If it's going to happen, it's better it happens now so that he can heal up and get ready for the playoffs. So all is not lost in Jacksonville, but kudos to the Bengals, man. I mean, because going into this game, I mean, I didn't see how they were going to beat, in my opinion, the best team in the AFC going into this game at Jacksonville. but they pulled it off. So that was very, very, very impressive to me. The Rams, winners of 3 in a row, 4 weeks ago. I thought they were dead. But how can you count out a team that's coached by Sean McVay in an offensively driven league? He's the most innovative and creative offensive mind in the game. Stafford, it looks like he's getting going. He's starting to look like that Stafford guy during that Super Bowl run. They're scoring points. They beat the Browns. Kyron Williams, he's running the ball hard on the ground. And what about Puka Nacua? Isn't that the best wide receiver name you've ever heard? Puka Nacua. Another 100 yards receiving, a touchdown. Who saw that coming? Rams are looking good. They've won 3 in a row. The Browns, on the other hand, they're trying to stay afloat. Flacco played formidable football. He was solid. He had 2 touchdowns. And just 3 weeks ago, he was sitting on his couch at home, contemplating retirement, never playing again. We'll see what he's able to bring to the table going forward. And then you have the Colts. And what more can I say about the Colts other than Minshew Mania? Another backup quarterback that is winning football games for his team. It's possible, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Douglas, it's possible. Take notes. I love watching Gardner Minshew plays because he has a lot of energy. And it looks like that type of energy, that enthusiasm, it just seeps through the team. And it provides such a spark. Who would have ever thought when they lost Anthony Richardson that this team would even be a playoff contender? Kudos to their coach, man. Minshew passed for over 300 yards, couple touchdowns. Michael Pittman, 11 catches, over 100 yards, a touchdown. Continues to prove that he's, a young, up-and-coming star receiver. Beat the Titans, the first team to beat the Titans at home. Before that, the Titans were 4-0. Very, very, very impressive. The Colts right now are 7-5. They hold the 7th seed. You got to think that it's only uphill from here. And then you got the Chargers and the Pats, the Patriots, 2-10. Go figure. I never thought, did any of us think that in a Bill Belichick coach team would be talking about them being 2-10 this late in the season? But fact of the matter is, they have no talent. They have no quarterback. Bailey Zappi started this game. He wasn't good. They lose 6-0. Chargers still covered, by the way, so I got that right. But you knew Bill Belichick was going to devise a game plan that was going to give Justin Herbert fits, and it did. But they did enough. 2 field goals. Patriots couldn't even score a point. But it's okay, because as bad as the Patriots are, they're the Patriots, which means they'll get the top pick in the draft. They'll draft the best quarterback, Caleb Williams, and they will be a juggernaut for the next 15 years and make my life and other Jet fans' life miserable, because that's how it usually goes. So it's okay. If you're a Patriot fan, there's light at the end of the tunnel. The Lions bounced back. They beat the Saints. The Lions are legit, 9-3. Scored another game where they scored over 30 points. Dan Campbell has that team rolling. I like Dan Campbell as a coach because he's so intense, and it just, the team is playing with the same identity as their head coach, and that's how it should be. They don't let a loss deflate them. They come back out and they play inspired football, and they crush a team that right now, I have no idea what's going on with Derek Carr, but that's a story for another video. Miami Dolphins, what else can you say about them? It hurts me, it pains me to be able to see this type of offense in the division that my team resides in. They just look like they can't be stopped. I mean, another game where they score over 40 points. They dropped 45 against the lowly Washington Commanders. What a job Mike McDaniels has done with that team, right? I said it weeks ago, the Jets should definitely look at their game film on offense and try to take little bits and pieces out of it, because they do it right. He is so innovative. He is the Sean McVay of the AFC. Mike McDaniels. Tua has been playing great football, not turning the football over, 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill. It's insane what Tyreek Hill is. I mean, it's like every time I look at the TV, he's running by a cornerback and he's catching a bomb for like 60 yards where the cornerback is like 5 yards away from him. Or he's running in the middle. There's no defensive guy around him. He's catching a pass and he's taking it 60 yards to the house. That's crazy to me. I know he's the fastest guy in the NFL, but the fact that defensive coordinators are scheming their game plans to try to stop him, because I'm sure that's what's happening, and they still can't, is insane. He's an MVP candidate. He's the cheetah. He's the fastest guy in football. But the reason behind that is because they put him in different positions on the field. They line him up on the outside in the slot. They use him in the short passing game, in the vertical passing game. So it's almost like he's all over the place. It's hard to defend him because you don't know where he's going to be. Kudos to that staff and Mike McDaniels for ensuring that they make sure that they get their best playmaker enough opportunities to make an impact in the game. That's how it should be done, and that's how you should call plays on offense. Cardinals, what are you doing? Don't you want the first pick in the draft? Now you have 3 wins. The Patriots are ahead of you. You go ahead and you beat the Steelers in Pittsburgh in a game where the Steelers lose their starting quarterback, Kenny Pickett. So now they're going to have to go forward for the next few games. Pickett has an ankle injury. He'll be back in a few weeks from what the reports are saying. But now they have to turn to Mitch Trubisky, another backup quarterback, who has starter experience. So it may not be that bad for them. It's not like the Steeler offense was lighting up the scoreboard anyway. But at the end of the day, they just need to do enough to stay afloat. They're 7-5 right now. They are the 6th seed in the playoffs if it ended today. We'll see what Mike Tomlin can draw up. Their defense is legit, so it's going to keep them in games. If the Steelers can manage to score 18, 19 points the next few weeks, they should be okay. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because Trubisky does have the tendency to turn the ball over, at least in the past. We'll see what happens now. And then the Denver Broncos, they come back down to earth, winners of 5 straight. I picked them because they were red hot to beat the Houston Texans, but no. Russell Wilson goes in there, he throws for 3 interceptions. And they lose to the Texans, 22-17. Much props to DeMeco Ryans for what he's done with this team. A rookie head coach, coaches around the horn, a rookie quarterback. Who would have ever thought they'd be 7-5 this late in the season? Contending for a wild card spot and potentially the division. And you got to think things are going to get better for them because they play the Jets this week. That's another story. Jets are not beating them. They can't score touchdowns. But we're not going to get into that. We're not going to ruin this video with that. Part of that has to do with them getting it right and drafting the stud quarterback of the draft last year, C.J. Stroud, of my Ohio State Buckeyes. He's been insane. Lights out. I didn't even think he'd be this good this early in his career. 274 yards this week, a touchdown, big throws, especially when they count. No interceptions. He only has 5 interceptions in 12 games. As a rookie, that's super impressive, man. He's a star in the making. Again, much props to DeMeco Ryans, man. I mean, I personally didn't see this coming. I thought it would take him a while to get acclimated as a head coach in this league. I thought it would take C.J. Stroud a while to get acclimated as a quarterback in this league. They are well ahead of schedule. You got to be super excited if you are a Texan fan. I talked about the Dolphins and their high-flying offense a couple minutes ago. You got to think with the way they score points, they're the favorites to come out of the AFC and represent the conference in the Super Bowl. But if they do, they'll have to do it against the Niners, in my opinion. The 4 o'clock game, which I thought was going to be the game of the week, ended up being the blowout of the week. The Niners go into Philadelphia and they embarrass the Eagles. I didn't see that coming. I actually picked the Eagles to win. I thought, even though the Eagles hadn't played their best game to date, I thought the Niners coming in would lift their spirits and they play a lot better. They play their best game, which everybody in Philadelphia had been waiting for them to play. They've been finding ways to win. I give them credit for that. But they haven't been playing their best. And let's not forget, they did lose to the Jets, which is an unforgivable offense. But the Niners prove by beating the Eagles 42-19 on their home turf that they're legit. The Niners are for real, man. I'm a believer. And ladies and gentlemen, Brock Purdy, he is legit. 314 yards, 4 touchdowns. It's insane to me. I mean, John Lynch and his front office, they have to be applauded. This guy was a 5th rounder. And they drafted him after they traded multiple picks to move up and take Trey Lance. But give them credit because it didn't take them long to realize, I don't know if we got it right with Trey, but I think we got it right with this kid. He just fits what we're trying to do in this offense. And they did not hesitate. They didn't try to justify trading all those picks to take Trey Lance and force feed him and play him. They knew it wasn't the right decision. It was a mistake. And even if we get criticized for it, we don't care because we're making the best decision that we could possibly make for the betterment of our team that will help our team get better and win games. They did it. They didn't give a shit about what the media was saying. And look how it's turning out. Take notes, Joe Douglas. Right now, Purdy he's an MVP candidate as well. And not only that, but then they go out and they get Christian McCaffrey. They trade for him. How's that trade working out? On both, I mean, he can run the ball. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He is the battery that keeps this offense, the engine in this offense going. 93 yards on the ground, a touchdown, another 4 catches. If he's not killing you on the ground, he's killing you in the passing game. Christian McCaffrey is a special player. Deebo Samuel, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not only is this team a juggernaut now or becoming a juggernaut on offense, their defense is crazy. You have Chase Young on one side and you have Nick Bosa on the other side of the defensive line. In a move that realistically John Lynch didn't even need to make. But those are the moves that separate the good GMs from the great GMs. Because to me, the great GMs are judged by what they do in season, not solely what they do in the off season. What do you do to adjust and pivot and either make positions of strength stronger or plug in holes where you have some deficiencies? Because realistically, the San Francisco defensive line was already strong. By adding Chase Young, you made it that much better. That move could make the difference between making you a team that can make it to the NFC Championship game or a team that's going to win the Super Bowl. They're legit. And right now, if the season ended, I'd have the Dolphins against the Niners. I know a lot of things can change, but I'm just saying if it ended this week, I'd have the Dolphins against the Niners, and I think the Niners match up well defensively. They're the only defense I see on the NFC that can slow down the Dolphins' offense. And the 49ers could score. Right now, I don't really see anybody beating the 49ers. That's just my opinion. Last but not least, the Dallas Cowboys. Going into the week, my biggest question was, can they beat a winning team? Because they've been beating up on a lot of below 500 teams, a lot of bad teams. That's what good teams are supposed to do, right? You're supposed to beat up on the bad teams. But sooner or later, you got to show up and see if you can beat the good teams. Now, I'm not saying the Seahawks were a great team, but they're a solid team. They were a winning team, 6-5, going into this game. And even in a game where the Dallas Cowboy defense had an off night, the offense picked them up. They played good complementary football, and you got to compliment Dak Prescott for that. He's an MVP candidate right now, 299 yards, another 3 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, he had already been over 1,000 yards before this game receiving, another 116 yards, 12 catches, 1 touchdown. That rapport between those two, right now you got to consider them probably the best 1-2 combination, if not one of the best in the league. Their offense is clicking. You got to give it to them. And normally their defense plays well. Again, they had a bad night at the office. But I think the Cowboys are legit. And trust me when I tell you, I mean, I believe in them, but there are a lot of Cowboy fans that, I'm not saying they don't believe in them, but I don't know if they believe in them when the games really count. I have a lot of Dallas Cowboy friends that I'm close with. And they'll tell you, yeah, Dak is having a great season. in the regular season. We've seen him have success in the regular season. What is he going to do in the playoffs, in the games that really count? In the games where you have to win or go home? Is he going to show up and be that Dak Prescott? That's a good question. I don't know. They know a little bit more than me. From what I see, he's having an MVP season. I think it could carry over, but we'll see. We'll see what Dak Prescott shows up in the postseason, because they'll make it into the postseason. In fact, they got another big game against a winning team against the Eagles this week. That's going to be very, very interesting, because that's a game that could potentially decide who's the winner in the NFC East. So be on the lookout for that. In fact, I'm going to be doing my picks, my Week 14 picks with spreads video tomorrow, so I'll obviously be covering this game. But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting the way this thing folds out. I mean, right now you have Miami, Baltimore, KC, and the Jags. They're the top 4 teams because they're the division leaders in the AFC. And then you have Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Indianapolis as the 3 wildcard teams. They're all 3 tied at 7-5. That's going to be an interesting race to see how that plays out, especially with the Texans obviously making noise and could potentially win against the Jets this week. And then you have the NFC, which is a lot more closer. You have Philadelphia, San Francisco, the Lions, and the Falcons. They're the top 4 seeds because they're the division leaders there. And then you have Dallas at 9-3, Vikings and Packers at 6-6. So the 7th and 8th seed to me is going to be interesting. The Packers, again, are playing a lot better. So you got to think that maybe they're a lock for one of those seeds. And the Vikings, I like their coach, Kevin O'Connell. It all depends on what kind of play we get from Joshua Dobbs going down the stretch. He's been pretty solid for them. He did have a bad game, but I like Joshua Dobbs. I think he's competent enough of a quarterback to help this team win games. But again, that's going to be a close race. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. Again, very interesting week. One thing I do want to point out, though, that to me stood out besides the play on the field is the officiating, because it seems like it's getting worse and worse. And as a fan, I'm frustrated by it. And I know there's a lot of other fans out there, a lot of my viewers. I want you to chime in on this, because what I'm seeing this year and even last year, it seems like ticky-tack fouls are becoming more the norm. And it has to stop, because it's actually ruining what we're seeing on the field. The NFL is really becoming hard to watch, because it seems like every big play that we see, at least I can speak for myself, I'm looking down at the TV to see, do we see that little yellow flag symbol pop up? And 9 out of 10 times it's popping up because they're calling something stupid. Come on, man. You got to do better, man. I looked at the numbers, because it was quite concerning to me, especially watching the Jet game. I mean, there was a lot of stupid ticky-tack fouls. And then I started watching some of the other games, and I dug in a little bit. We had, just to put things in perspective, we had 13 games this week, 26 teams played. In those 13 games, we had 161 penalties called for over 1,400 yards in penalized yardage. That's just insane to me. Out of those 26 teams, 19 teams had at least 5 penalties or more called against them, with 10 of those teams having 7 or more penalties called. The Dallas Cowboy game and the Seattle Seahawks game that I just went over, they had 19 penalties between both teams called for 257 yards. It's just, it has to stop. It really does. When you have the announcers saying that a lot of these calls are ticky-tack, something has to be done about what's happening. Realistically, you can probably call a penalty on every single play, especially at the line of scrimmage, with the way the offensive line and the defensive line hit each other and hold each other. But they shouldn't be calling anything other than egregious calls. Calls that stand out, yes, I get it. Call those. That's your job. But ticky-tack, it's got to stop. You know, the whole thing with the safety of the players, I get that whole piece of it. But I mean, ticky-tack, roughing the passers, pushes out of bounds. I mean, 15-yard penalties. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The league has to do something about that. It's making games hard to watch. I said this before to friends. If I was an owner, I'd write a letter to the league office. I'd even maybe have my staff put together, compile a video of all the ticky-tack fouls that have occurred against my team the last year and a half, and I'd send that to the league office with a letter and say, look at this video and let me know what you think, because things have to get better. Coaches have to start complaining about this stuff, and I know they don't want to because they don't want to get fined, but something's got to give here, man, because it seems like it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm not the type of person that wants to blame officials for losses, but there's been a lot of games from fans out there, and they can attest to that have been decided because of a bad call. And that can't happen. It can never be about the officials. The game have to be decided by the players. And when those plays happen and teams end up losing because of a controversial call, what does the NFL do? They send a letter to the league to the team. And they say, we apologize. We blew the call. Doesn't take the loss off their record, though. NFL has to do better, man. They got to stop with this stuff. Referees, officials, they got to be held accountable for piss poor performance, just like everybody else is in the real world. I mean, if we do a subpar job at work, we get held accountable. And if it's even that bad, we get fired. Nobody's getting fired. Nobody's being held accountable. Things have to change. Get better officials. I don't know if it's money. I don't know if it's making them full-time. Whatever it is, the NFL is by far the best league in the entire world. Get this shit right, because it's ruining the games. It's ruining the fans' viewing experience. And I'm sorry I had to bring that up and rant, but that's one of the things to me that stood out this week. In fact, it's one of the things that stood out to me for many weeks, and I felt like it needed to be said. Things have to change and they have to get better, man. Anyway, that's my rant. Hopefully somebody that matters will hear it. But anyhow, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. I want to do more of these recap videos on a week-to-week basis, but I'd love to be able to hear your feedback. And if you're new to watching my videos, man, please subscribe. Please subscribe and support. Hit that notification button as well, because I'm dropping new videos all the time. So anytime I drop new content, that notification thing will tell you that, it's good to go and you're ready to tune in and watch. But thank you. As always, I thank you for watching and thank you for your support. And be on the lookout for my pick videos. With my pick video will spread tomorrow. But as always, this is your boy Johnny signing out from the Hangout spot. And I will talk to everybody soon.